All right, so are you like me and you like to sometimes do some macro photography, but you can't do it enough that you can justify making the purchase? Well, I might have a solution for you, but first, let me go get a coffee. I'm good now. So in the Fujifilm XF lineup, we do have two macro lenses. We have a 60mm f2.4, and then we also have the XF 80mm 2.8, which are amazing lenses. But again, if you like to shoot some macros sometimes for fun, it might be hard to justify that purchase of that macro lens, a specialized lens, for something that you do every now and then. But there's a solution to that, and these are called extension tubes. So we have the MCEX 16 as well as the MCEX 11. So the number just means the distance they pull away from the sensor. So the 11 is the small one, the 16 is the biggest. Now these actually work really well with a very common lens that most X shooters have, which is the XF 18 to 55mm f2.8 to f4. So like I said, the XF 18 to 55 matches really well with the extension tubes, especially with the MCEX 16, because if you want to get as close as to true macro as possible, which is 1x magnification, with the MCEX 16 and the XF 18 to 55mm, you can get 0.97 in terms of magnification. So that's really close to 1:1. So the way you can achieve that, again, is using this extension tube, the MCEX 16, and then use the 18 to 55 at the widest angle, so the 18mm, and then you will get 0.97 times magnification, which is pretty awesome. Now, if you're like me and you like to get as close as possible, you don't really care about 1:1, you just want to see tiny details, you want the biggest magnification possible. There's something you can do, although it's not recommended to do that, maybe because of image quality related issues, but I like to stack the 11 and the 16 together and then just add it to the 18 to 55 and then zoom it all the way, and in that way I can get close to my subject, and then I can get less of that wide angle perspective and more of that telephoto perspective. So that's one thing I like to do. And then I mentioned the 18 to 55, but then this will work with a lot of Fujifilm lenses. There's a chart that you can look up, I'll put the link up here, and then some lenses might not work because they already focus really close, but you know, again, just have a look at that chart and then you can see if it'll work well. Again, if you do have the 18 to 55, I think this is a great match with the extension tubes. Now, a very important tip, although you can handhold the camera for this type of shooting, I would recommend to use a tripod if possible, or even a gorilla pod if you're shooting tiny objects on tables, for example, because the focus plane is very thin when using these extension tubes. So even if you move just slightly, like breathing even, you might get your shot out of focus. So using a tripod is the best way to do that, and then also setting the self timer for like 2 seconds and then make sure you have no movement and everything is sharp and in focus. Also, when using these extension tubes, you move the lens away from the sensor, so you are losing a little bit of light, so your shutter speed might be slower or not fast enough. If you're shooting inside, for example, you might need a little bit longer of an exposure, so using a tripod is the best way to make sure you have in focus and sharp images. So this to me is a perfect way to get out of a creative rut when you don't really know what to shoot, or maybe you can't really go out and shoot with people. That's a great way to just expand your horizons and shoot things around the house. And then again, it could be anything, and it all becomes really interesting just because you get really up close to that. So I'm gonna go and shoot images of tiny things.